Welcome to Ask the Security Guy. This is weird because I'm used to saying welcome to Cool Tools, but welcome to Ask the Security Guy. I'm Holly Magnuson, and I'm here with Shawn Corman.
Hey, round two, huh?
Round two. We had some very interesting technical difficulties this morning, but we wanted to get this message out because it's an important one. So, Shawn, you want to go ahead and introduce it?
Sure. So we had a spam message come around that had some really interesting characteristics to it. It was, in some ways, the first of its kind that we've really seen, but it looked like a standard spam message. I'll put it up on the screen here. We had a 2 that had a bunch of H's, and then it was coming from a recognized address, meaning it came from somebody you know, most likely, or a student here at APU, or a faculty or staff member. Could have come from anyone at APIEDU or in your contact list. So what was really interesting about it is it looked like it had a Google Drive attachment, and when you clicked on it, what would happen is it would bring you to a normal Google authentication page asking you to allow permission for an application called Google Docs to access your email, your contacts, etc. And then it also asked for permission to manage your contacts, which was really fascinating.
Scary.
Yeah. So what was on the geeky side of this, what was really fascinating about this was the spam author, the guy who wrote this thing, actually created an app and published it that was collecting all of your contacts, all of your stuff in your contact list, to then propagate this message out there and get more information. On the good news side, this was discovered, I think, about 45 minutes after it went live to the world. So this was not just APU, this was the world that was impacted by this. And it was shut down shortly thereafter. So it was unpublished.
Yeah. Well, my son said that his school, they made an announcement over the speaker system. Do not open this document, do not click on it.
So a number of government agencies, including the FBI, put out alerts about this thing. There were alarm bells going off around the world about this one. So on the plus side, it was caught, it was recognized, it was terminated by the hosting provider very, very quickly. On the downside, a lot of people were extremely helpful and clicked allow.
Yeah, that's nice.
And there were a number of blog posts that talked about that said, hey, you've been very, very helpful in giving this author or authors your information. So that's on the downside, kind of.
Yeah. Here at APU, we had very, very few, less than 5.
Nice.
So
nice.
Good job, community.
Well done. And that's the kind of thing we want to see. In support of that, we had a number of people forward that to ISO at APIEDU, also spam at APIEDU. Got a number of these people asking, "What is this thing?"
Yep.
So my commendation to the community. Great job at identifying this thing and asking the question.
Yep.
That's exactly why we have those email addresses out there. Thank you for doing that. As a last bit, the developer also, if you clicked on the developer info for the app, which unfortunately you can't get to anymore, but there was a Eugene Popov at gmail.com was the actual listed developer. Now, if that's a real address or not, we don't know. My guess is no.
Well, we don't think Eugene was that silly.
I doubt it.
No.
Yeah, we
Eugene's enemy was that clever.
Possibly. Yeah. Possibly. So, it's one of the first attacks of this type that we've seen. So what it's doing is someone developed a real Google app, published it, and then sent this message out to harvest. So there's a lot of questions then about, okay, well, how do I stop this? Do I change my password? Well, no, actually, in this case, changing your password is not going to do anything.
Because you've given them permission to your contacts.
By clicking allow, you're giving them permission. Well, then the next one was, well, what about multi-factor authentication? That could have stopped this, right?
No, because you've given them permission to your stuff.
Exactly. So, and that's the real crux of it is by allowing you are already logged in, you have a valid password, and you've given them access.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the beauty of the exploit. From my perspective.
Beauty, in quotes.
Me being the anyway. So I thought it was pretty ingenious, as did a number of my colleagues. On the downside, the real question is, how do you stop this thing?
Yeah.
And what do you do if you clicked allow? Well, with this particular one, the best way, one, to not get wrapped up in it is to not click allow, obviously. Ask the question. The second thing is if you did or if you suspect that you've allowed things like this, if you go into your Google account settings, there is a place where you can look at all applications that you've authorized to access your account and your account info. And you can look at exactly what they've done. And we'll put a picture of that up on the screen for everyone to see. But in there, you can go in and item by item see what applications have access to your stuff. And they vary. Some just want access to your email address and your public profile. Others will want access to Drive and email and calendar and everything else. Well, depending on the type of application, that may be legitimate. Because some applications require that level of access to do whatever it is they're going to do for you. But you have the opportunity, Google provides the tools to go in and audit that yourself. We in IMT also have some tools in the back end that we're looking at now that this type of exploit is in the wild. We're looking at deploying further than we have so far to identify these and provide notifications potentially, or in some cases, if we know it's bad, just flat out block it. We're still in an investigation phase on that, but we'll be looking at that pretty quickly. The good news is we already have the tools, and our partners that we've been working with for a couple of years now, we're Johnny on the spot with addressing that and enhancing their tools to address things like this. They've already done it. So really for us is how do we roll it out in a way that works for the community.
Now, one of the questions that came up when we were trying to be live was why didn't Checkpoint recognize this?
So, okay.
And I tried to explain, I don't know if it was able to work, because Checkpoint is looking for viruses. And this wasn't a virus per se. It was an exploit trying to get information.
So if we're talking about semantic,
yes,
as an antivirus, this wasn't a virus. Well, it was and it wasn't. Technically, it's considered an app worm.
That's the term I heard.
But it's the kind of thing that antivirus would never even catch. It's not that type of thing, because everything that it's touching is in the cloud. It's not actually touching anything on your computer.
It's going after information, which viruses, I suppose, could be doing that, but that's not usually their purpose.
Right, so a virus on your computer is going to try to harvest information off your computer. This is entirely cloud-based, going after cloud resources.
So, and it's important to look at any app that you install, any extension, looking at the permissions. What is it asking for? What is it making sense? Does that make sense?
And every app that you install on your phone, on your Google, on whatever platform you're using, it's going to ask you for certain app permissions. And it's in the fine print, and it's a fun read, I guarantee you not.
Having insomnia, read them.
But it is worthwhile because you need to understand what you're allowing access to and why.
And that's one of the things our Prod Apps team looks at when we're looking, is we're looking at what is this app that we're looking at, what kind of permissions is it asking for?
Well, everything that comes through Cool Tools we review very carefully. Even if it's those personal productivity things, we take a hard look at it just to make sure.
Because we want to protect our information. So if you have other questions for Shawn or for myself, you can email iso@apiedu.edu, which should be appearing across the bottom of the screen. And any other thoughts that we want to put out there?
No, I think that covers it.
Do we want to talk about the other thing that happened last month?
Oh, go ahead and introduce that.
Okay. So last month, we had several of our customers start calling the support desk that they were locked out of their email accounts. Because we have here at APU a system where if you mistype your password 5 times, you're locked out of your account for 30 minutes. And that's a safeguard for exactly what happened to us last month, which was called a brute force attack.
Yep. So last month what happened was it was a combination of a brute force and a DOS, which DOS stands for denial of service. What happened was we had a attacker who was showing up, his IP address was showing up in Ukaipa. Was that where he really was? Doubtful. That's just where we were able to track him to. But what he had was a list of email addresses from APU, students, faculty, staff, that he had probably harvested on any number of locations on the internet.
Including our own website.
And possibly. Well, you're not going to find these on our website.
Okay.
Yeah, no, these were part of other
Gotcha.
compromises from other places. Fortunately, not ours. However, that information was out there. So, and what he was doing was he was trying repeatedly different password combinations against every account. Well, he was trying them so fast using a tool that was doing it for him. I mean, he wasn't sitting there typing these. He had this scripted. Well, the tool was coming up against our automated lock repeatedly. So during the process of the day, when we identified the problem and once we identified where it was and what it was, we were able to track down the source and stop it. But it took a little bit of time to track it.
Yeah.
But great work from our engineering team for the work that they did and providing log data that really helped us identify it. For our customers and for contacting us and being patient with us while we track this guy down. But it was definitely an attempt to access almost 100 accounts were involved in this one.
Yeah, and that's why we put into place things like if you mistype your password 5 times, it's going to lock you out. You can always call the support desk, and they can help you out and get you unlocked sooner. But this is why we do that.
Yeah. And this was a case where our safeguard was actually used against us, but not intentionally.
Right.
The attacker was trying to get access. They weren't trying to lock out the accounts.
Right.
So, but the safeguards really helped highlight the issue, identify the attacker and the attack, and stop it.
So, again, kudos to our engineering team.
Yep, definitely. Yep. Couldn't have done it without them.
So with that, we will say goodbye. Thanks for your patience this morning. For those of you who were trying to watch us and hearing this live, again, any questions, iso@apu.edu, and we'll be back next month with who knows what kind of interesting things that will be happening.
Same bad time, same bad channel.
Yep. Have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Bye.